Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
I think we have control over that 100 million or so which we already have through the rebate. So in this case, I think the Stats Authority is right to query his use of the figure. Also, we can't forget, that the number's got a long lineage. It's not just this article. It was used right the way through the campaign by Vote Leave. And so to help the public understand what the real numbers are, I think that the authority was right to intervene.
What about from your perspective of the government, senior government minister and a senior government civil servant publicly attacking each other's integrity? What do you make of that?
Well, it does concern me, that the UK statistical system is envied around the world as very independent, and to have one of the big ministers of state attacking that independence, I think it is really problematic.
And when you say attacking the independence, what do you mean exactly? I mean, he's criticising one action.
Yes, but I mean, this is an independent body which has been tasked with looking at the numbers, and so it seems to be they've made their ruling, and that should be accepted. So by attacking its integrity, it does raise in the minds of the public a concern about its independence.
I mean, do you feel, as a statistician, that you are more exposed now to political pressure and political attack than you were in the past, or than is appropriate?
Well, I think that the UK system is now under more pressure as a result of these sorts of issues, but I'm confident that it will maintain its independence, the statistical system, and fortunately we have the UK Stats Authority reporting into Parliament, and so I think this is a matter.
I mean, what sort of redress do you have if the government says, well, we want to present the figures this way, which you don't really think is justified, or if the government says, well, we're not going to publish those figures because they don't make our case? What redress do you?
Well, so the national statistician who looks after all of our figures is completely independent from government and reports into Parliament, so can publish and be damned, as it were.
So he can say, I don't care what you think,
Yeah.
I'm going to put this out in the public domain.
Exactly.
And does that happen very often?
I mean, I think that, and I think over time, actually, we've established a good system where politicians have stopped interfering with the numbers, and this is it's instances like this which make us slightly worried, which is why we're intervening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, well, let's talk about Boris Johnson and the fact that he's written this article and in it has revived the £350 million figure, saying that Britain should take back control of it. Is he right?
Well, I thought the article actually, I actually listened to Zia earlier on, I thought the article is a upbeat and positive article. I thought it was actually well written. And
but on the £350 million?
Well, the government's view is we take back control of our money, our laws, and, of course, our borders. And those three elements are critical to the whole negotiation. So the 350, if you don't mind me saying so, is a figure that will always vary because it's a snapshot in time of 1 year.
All right, well, let's take last year.
Well,
let's take 2016 and 2015. Well, now, hang on a second, Iain Duncan Smith.
Not going to understand why that's
well,
the case.
no, but if we look at the figures, we've spoken to the statisticians about it, and they say that figure is wrong. It never, ever leaves our shores in that gross figure that you and Boris and other Brexiteers actually used at the time, because it doesn't take into account the rebate that is taken off before our money goes to Brussels.
The rebate is not taken off before.
It is. It is taken off. No, you can't, because it does. We've looked into this and we've spoken to the statistics. Well, are you saying that the UK Statistical Authority is wrong?
Hang on, they're not arguing that, by the way.
Yeah, they are.
No, they're not. The argument here is, what, therefore, does this represent when you average it out to a week? And the answer is very simple. It will vary. In fact, a year ago, it was 370 million. It's less than that now. And here's the reason why. The rebate is actually paid back a year in arrears. The Chancellor, when he was Chancellor, George Osborne, made that very clear on the floor.
So did Margaret Thatcher not take back control when she secured the rebate at Fontainebleau in 1984?
Can we just explain this properly? Because most of the public won't. The rebate comes back a year in arrears. The second part
doesn't.
of this,
The rebate is taken off the amount of money we send to Brussels before it leaves these shores.
Hang on. The year it's taken is for the year before, and the next year is in arrears. The second bit about this...
Does the money ever leave the UK?
Can I just finish explaining this, please?
No, because you're not correct on this.
The second part of this is that when you pay the money over, the EU takes the money, and when it takes the money that you get back for programmes is money that they decide how that will be spent. And that means...
But that's not the rebate, is it?
That's the reason why the money varies, because some years
you are muddying
we
the waters
don't
here.
take as
I'm
much
asking
back
a
from
very,
programmes.
very
Other years we
straightforward...
do.
No, let's take the average.
Well, it's a complex issue, that's why.
No, you are muddying the waters here. First of all, you're mixing up the rebate and the money the EU pays the UK for different programmes. No, I did. I didn't ask you about the money the EU pays for programmes within...
money that you're talking about.
All right, well, let's just take the last 2 years, as I say. If we take 2016 and 2015, the average was £250 million, and the annual figure was around 8.6 billion. That was the figure
That's
for
the
2015.
netted figure.
Yes, for 2015 and 2016. Nowhere near £350 million. That figure is incorrect. It's been deemed incorrect by all the statistical authorities, and I am saying it too. So I say again, why revive that figure now in an article penned by Boris Johnson?
You can ask Boris Johnson why he revived it. All I'm simply saying to you is the item that we're talking about in terms of a figure is a snapshot in time for one of the years. It's averaged out, and it was the last set of figures for the last set of years that were calculated. They are going to be different each year because they vary depending massively on the amount of money that comes back in programmes.
Did £350 million go every week during 2016 to Brussels?
Actually, it was about 370, the figures I recall it was.
No,
it
didn't.
An averaged out figure of 350. But, you know, we're going to argue about this all day. I don't think that's the issue. The issue about...
Well, clearly it is, because so many voters voted for Brexit, and we know this now because studies have been done on the basis that they believe the government would spend £350 million extra on the NHS
I don't think they did
each
at all. I think the reality was...
There have been surveys done.
It was on the side of a bus.
Hang
it
on,
must have
hang
been
on a second. The key point here is take back control means, as Theresa May has said in her Lancaster House speech, we get to decide what we do with the money that at present we send to the European Union. That is the point. The government can decide how it spends that, how much it spends, where it spends it. At the moment, that is not the case. Right now, that is decided by the European Union, of which we have a vote, but we don't have a controlling vote.
I'm not disputing that with you.
That is the key point. So it doesn't matter whether you're talking 350 or 270
So figures
million.
don't matter, do they?
Well, they do matter in the sense that all of that money that goes out every single year, billions and billions that go to the Union, will come back to the UK.
Except that money doesn't. All that money does not go out because the rebate is taken off. So you're not talking about a correct figure.
That is not the case.
Yes, I am arguing it.
That money doesn't go out to the European Union at all. So we've never had a...
But that's a completely different... Of course I'm saying that money goes out to the European Union, but not £350 million a week, because we know the rebate is taken off.
Who takes control over what is spent, where it is spent...
You've moved the goalposts, Iain Duncan Smith. When I spoke, you did. You said money doesn't go out to Brussels. I've said, I agree, money does go out to Brussels, not the amount that you and Boris have said. And that is where...
That's all I'm saying. It constantly varies.
Accuracy is important here. Lucy earlier said that she didn't quite understand what Boris Johnson meant when he talked about split allegiances, and that you can have as much love for the EU as you have for Britain. Is she right, or is Boris right?
No, I'm not here to defend Boris's article. I'm simply here to talk about our issues around
I'm not asking you to
productivity.
defend the article. I'm asking you about split allegiances. Can you love other things other than Britain?
I think you can love lots of things, but the key question that Theresa May made earlier on when she talked about people who see themselves as citizens of nowhere rather than citizens of somewhere, this is the same point that she was making. At the end of it all, you have an allegiance, and that allegiance allows you to form your nation and how you see things. Doesn't mean to say you can't be friends, you can't respect other nations and cooperate with them. But if you get confused about where your allegiance lies, I think it confuses your attitude towards how you govern yourself.
And it's unpatriotic.
And I think no, I don't think it's unpatriotic. I just think it's a point that's being made that we are British, we have a sense about who we are, but it doesn't mean to say we don't get on incredibly well with the French, respect what they do, the Germans, we all draw a bit from each other. That's how I see it. And that's what I think Theresa May sees it.
And do you think that sort of sentiment, along with Boris's article, brings people together, those that were on the other side of the argument?
I think the answer is we're leaving, and everybody needs to respect that decision. And now what we have to do is get on and make that happen. And the truth about it all is, at the end of it all, it will be Britain having to go and forge its way in the rest of the world, make new trade arrangements, but also at the same time, we want to remain friends and allies with our friends in the European Union. We're not going to have some kind of ghastly standoff we will still be friends, we'll still be cooperating on defence and security issues. What goes on endlessly, if you don't mind me saying so, the interviews, is into the middle of all of this, you want to plunge some kind of constant row in a party. All the parties
I don't think we've done that. I'm only trying to pull out some of the sentiment from Boris Johnson. Without a shadow of a doubt. And we've talked to Labour about it.
Let's get on and deliver what the most biggest democratic vote in Britain has ever been, decided that we were leaving the European Union. And Theresa May will make a speech this week, and I'm sure she'll be very clear about it. And I think she's got exactly the right attitude.
Just before we let you go, in terms of taking back control, the government has set out details of its proposed new security treaty between the UK and the EU after Brexit. Ministers want the treaty to provide a legal basis for continued security, law enforcement and criminal justice cooperation after Britain leaves the EU. In an initial position paper by Theresa May, she did float the idea that that cooperation could be in jeopardy if Britain didn't get the right deal. Is that still the case and should be in your mind?
Well, everything is exactly right on that, which is that we are in the business of negotiating the best arrangements possible which suit the European Union as much as they suit the UK. And what would suit the European Union is for that cooperation to continue, arguably to extend.
And would it suit the UK too? Is it worth using that as a threat?
Of course. I mean, you know, we cooperate massively with the United States. We share total intelligence with the USA. We don't have a massive customs deal with them, but we still share intelligence with them.
All right.
My point is, it's in their interest to have the British, to have one of the best intelligence systems alongside them. It's part of the negotiation.
Iain Duncan Smith, thank you very much.
I've been getting